It's starting to feel like something big is about to happen in Alberta. The tone has shifted. The patience, the diplomacy, the endless letters and committee meetings, all of that seems to be over. Because this week, Alberta made a move that stunned even its closest allies. Quietly, but decisively, the province sent a message to Ottawa and to Prime Minister Mark Carney himself that it's done playing nice. Now, officially, no one in Edmonton is saying this directly. But behind the scenes, officials are calling this the turning point. After months of heated negotiations, failed energy deals, and endless arguments over taxation, Alberta has finally crossed a line that Carney's government never thought it would. And here's where things get really interesting, because if what's being whispered in political circles is true, this could be the start of something Ottawa cannot control. Let's back up a bit. For the past few months, Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith has been unusually quiet. No major speeches, no fiery interviews, nothing that hinted at what was coming. But that silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Sources close to the provincial cabinet say Smith has been preparing something massive. Not just another bill, not another symbolic protest, but a full-scale shift in how Alberta deals with the federal government. We're talking about a complete reorganization of how Alberta handles its energy revenues, its pension structure, and even its federal transfers. And while Ottawa is still pretending everything is under control, insiders are saying Carney's team is scrambling behind closed doors. Because here's the truth. If Alberta actually follows through on this plan, the financial consequences for Ottawa could be devastating. Billions in revenue gone. The federal government's leverage over Western Canada weakened overnight. And politically? It would be a direct challenge to Carney's authority, one that he can't just smooth over with another press conference. Now, officially, no one's confirming anything. The documents haven't been made public. But one memo, allegedly leaked from Alberta's Treasury Board, outlines a framework that would allow the province to withhold certain federal contributions if Ottawa fails to respect provincial autonomy. In plain language, that means Alberta could legally block federal programs it considers interfering. And that's not even the most shocking part. There are also reports that Danielle Smith has quietly reached out to Saskatchewan and even Manitoba about coordinating policies on energy production, taxation, and environmental standards without Ottawa's approval. If true, this would be the first step toward what some political observers are calling a Western Compact, a bloc of provinces acting together as a counterweight to the federal government. Nothing official yet, but if Alberta is leading this charge, it would explain why Carney's inner circle has been unusually tense this week. Now, let's pause for a second, because this didn't come out of nowhere. Remember what's been building: the federal carbon tax hike that hit farmers hard, the stalled energy projects, the equalization payments draining billions from Alberta's budget, while Ottawa keeps adding new climate regulations. For many Albertans, it feels like Ottawa's been tightening the leash for years. But this week, something snapped. Smith's government reportedly held a closed-door meeting late Monday night, with only senior ministers and a handful of advisors. The discussion, according to one participant, wasn't about if Alberta should push back, it was about how far it could go before Ottawa tried to stop them. And here's where the nightmare begins for Carney. Because for all his talk about national unity, the Prime Minister is suddenly facing a province that isn't bluffing anymore. Alberta isn't asking for permission. It's drawing its own boundaries. Some insiders even suggest that Alberta is preparing to test the limits of the Constitution, a direct confrontation over jurisdiction, something Canada hasn't seen since the 1980s. And while Carney's team might try to spin this as regional frustration, the mood on the ground tells a different story. In small towns across the province, from Red Deer to Grande Prairie, people are openly talking about going our own way. And not just in a symbolic sense. There's a new confidence brewing, one that's no longer afraid of Ottawa's disapproval. Reports claim that several major energy firms have already begun diverting new investments toward provincially controlled initiatives, effectively bypassing federal regulators. It's not illegal, at least not yet, but it's sending shockwaves through the capital. Because the moment Alberta proves it can function independently, even partially, other provinces might start thinking the same way. Now, here's where things get murky and potentially explosive. Allegedly, a confidential letter sent to the Prime Minister's office last week outlines Alberta's new fiscal framework and includes what one insider described as a clear warning. The letter, which has not been made public, apparently states that Alberta's cooperation with federal programs cannot be assumed going forward. In political terms, that's a bombshell. It's a polite way of saying, we're not under your control anymore. And according to people familiar with the PMO's response, Carney was furious. He reportedly ordered an emergency cabinet session on Tuesday morning to discuss containment options. Ottawa's lawyers are reviewing the constitutional implications, but even they admit Alberta's legal position isn't entirely weak. Meanwhile, the public narrative remains calm. Carney talks about dialogue, Smith talks about autonomy, and the media keeps calling it a policy disagreement. But behind the curtain, both sides are preparing for a showdown. What's even more surprising is that the United States, or more specifically, President Trump, has started making comments that seem to support Alberta's stance. During a recent trade event, he allegedly hinted that some provinces understand business better than Ottawa ever will. That one sentence alone has created chaos in Canadian political circles. Is Washington signaling support for Alberta's defiance? Or is it just another Trump-style jab to get under Carney's skin? No one knows. But the timing couldn't be worse for Ottawa. Now, let's be clear, this doesn't mean Alberta is separating tomorrow. But the direction is unmistakable. The tone, the confidence, the refusal to compromise, it all points to a province that stopped asking and started acting. Even within Carney's own caucus, whispers are spreading. Some MPs from the prairies are reportedly urging the Prime Minister to make real concessions before the situation spirals out of control. But others are pushing for a harder line, arguing that Alberta can't be allowed to set its own rules. And that's the trap Carney now finds himself in. If he gives in, he looks weak. If he resists, he risks pushing Alberta even further away. Either way, it's a no-win scenario, the kind of political nightmare every Prime Minister dreads. And Danielle Smith knows it. That's what makes this moment so powerful. She's not just fighting for policy, she's rewriting the playbook. In her view, Ottawa's era of dominance is over, and the West's time has come. So as the country watches this unfold, the question isn't whether Alberta will back down, it's whether Ottawa even can stop it anymore. Because if Alberta truly is done playing nice, then this isn't just another provincial protest. It's a declaration, one that could redefine Canada's future in ways we're only beginning to understand. And as one senior official in Edmonton reportedly said after Monday's meeting, we tried talking. Now we're done waiting. Whatever happens next, Carney's nightmare has only just begun.